Hello and welcome to Round Robin. I'm Robin McCormick, your host with the City of Hampton, and today we are going to get an update on biking and walking, kind of pedestrian access in the City of Hampton. My guest is Alison Eubank from Parks. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
So, the last few years there's been this sort of kind of subtle growth in, at least what I've seen, in designated areas, or what you call sharrows, but like where the bicycle path is kind of marked along the roadway. That's pretty exciting.
It is exciting, and what the public often doesn't see is this stuff has been in the works for a really long time.
Well, honestly, I think one of the times we talked, it was when the bike walk plan got adopted. And so we're all very excited, but it takes so long, to get to the end of that.
It does. The bike walk plan was adopted in 2016, I think, so 5.5 years or so ago.
Wow.
And then what happens is we apply for funding, and once we receive it, then projects have to go through design before construction. So that's what we're starting to see now. Some of them are smaller changes. But there was recently a pedestrian crosswalk added at Mellon and Mallory and Phoebus to help facilitate people getting around that kind of core area and walking. And soon there will be some better bike lanes from Phoebus to Fort Monroe across the Mercury Bridge. I believe that project starts late fall.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. That's exciting. So
Yeah.
you're the group that you helped start, and I know there are a lot of citizens involved. It's not, it's kind of city coordinated, but there are a lot of people working with you. The Bike Walk group. How is that going? Are you seeing growth?
It's good. I would say it's steady right now. Bike Walk Hampton, and we have a pedestrian advisory committee. So if anyone's interested, we usually have a few spots that open up every fall around the October time frame. And they help kind of guide us and lead us. And we do rides usually the fourth Sunday of every month. A casual ride with a leader. So if you are still getting used to riding around the city and don't feel comfortable doing it alone, come join us.
Yeah, or if you are a good biker and want to work with other people, encourage other people, because I think that's really nice the way folks work together and support each other.
We've had great citizen involvement and great involvement from the Peninsula Bicycling Association, which has a lot of experienced riders. So usually I ride the fourth Sunday of every month. We have a few major events a year. One of them's Tour de Fort, riding around Fort Monroe, several different options of rides, a casual ride, also a 20-mile ride for those who want to get some proper exercise in. We do a Words on Wheels event, which is like Scrabble. You find your letters when you bike around to different businesses and come back and spell a word.
That sounds really fun. I see all these things go by, but I haven't ever really done them.
Yeah, if any of those sound interesting, we would encourage you to look up Bike Walk Hampton. It's a Facebook group, and then also Bike Walk Hampton on Instagram. And then a consistent way to get information is a newsletter through the City of Hampton that comes out. You can go to hampton.gov/bikewalk.
Okay. And we usually promote them in e-news too, and I always encourage people to sign up for that because you get a wide variety of events and information that way.
So we try to get it out through multiple avenues. And there was somewhat of a pause during COVID, so we're happy to be able to have rides again and see people back out on their bikes. Biking was one of those things that people could do all the time, but city events did pause.
Well, yeah, and we were all kind of shifted to work on other projects during that time too.
So we're really happy to kind of be having those regular events again.
So if you're a beginning biker or are nervous about maybe going on some of the streets, what are some of the favorite places that the Bike Walk group goes for a ride?
So the Bike Walk group, actually, we rotate through neighborhoods because we think we want to show people the different areas of the city. There are a lot of good things to see, and also show people some safe options in neighborhoods. A lot of neighborhood streets are pretty comfortable. I do always hear that people enjoy riding at Fort Monroe. I'd say perhaps not during the peak of summer, but otherwise the boardwalk is pretty open for bike riding. And then the Buckrow Boardwalk, which just got a huge renovation, it has a dedicated bike lane as well.
I think it's bikes and scooters, right?
Basically wheeled vehicles. We also ask that skateboards kind of stay over there since the wheeled vehicles, the bikes, the scooters, skateboards move a little bit faster than those walking on kind of
and that's longer now. I mean, it got a little bit of an extension.
In total, it's 3/4 of a mile long, so you could walk from, I believe it's Pilot Avenue all the way down to the south to the James T. Wilson Fishing Pier.
Yeah, that's nice. And I think, that's good for walkers or bikers because they do have the separate lanes, and it's such a pleasant time if it's not miserable hot of the day.
Yes, that is true.
And Fort Monroe, you can do a pretty good loop around Fort Monroe now, right?
You can do a good loop around Fort Monroe, and Fort Monroe has added some bike lanes as well on McNair.
That's kind of their busiest street, I think.
Yeah, so when you're kind of going in, if you veer to the right past the marina, there are some bike lanes there, and they do have Fort Monroe plans for that, but they do have long-range plans to keep adding pedestrian and bicycle facilities and make it really comfortable.
It's very confusing as people think it's part of the city, but then it's also really owned by the state, and it's a kind of cooperative thing most of the time. It is a city neighborhood, and it is state property.
It is. Yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but I would say a good partnership. We obviously have one of our big events there at Fort Monroe.
Now, one of the things I've heard a lot of people absolutely love, but some people thought it was like a waste of money, the Water Walk Trail. It is, people say no one uses it, but you can't really see people on it most of the time. I mean, they're there, but when you're spread out.
Yeah, I mean, like anything, mixed opinions. It provides lovely views to the water, and I know one of our committee members lives in the Riverdale area, and he uses it almost every day to bike and get to various places.
To get places. I just think of it as a recreational kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the wonderful thing about what we're doing is while it's recreation for a lot of people, all of them also provide safer access for people if their only choice is biking and walking. But he does a lot of recreational riding. So he's using it often. It's also one of our rides, if you keep your eye out for information on future rides that we do with our bike walk group. And you get to see the water, you get to go past the Coliseum.
I love it because it's got that sort of very nature-y, you don't feel like you're in the middle of a city portion, and then, it's around the Coliseum, but it's beautiful because you've got the creek, you've got Coliseum Lake.
And if people haven't been out in a while, maybe a year or so ago, there was some good wayfinding signage installed, because I know that's one of the tricky things, is not everyone knows which way they're supposed to turn. Some pretty good signage there now, and
they're beautiful.
We have hopes to extend it over to Bluebird Gap Farm in the future. Right now, the southern portion is from the Bass Power Plant, Bass Pro Shop area. So to be able to get safely over to Bluebird Gap Farm, so you could theoretically walk or bike from Bluebird Gap Farm all the way to Air Power Park.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Are there other big areas that have added bike paths or at least markers that kind of make people feel, it reminds drivers, there are bikers here too.
Right. So we mentioned a little bit of work in Phoebus. There have been some sharrows that have been added on the Mellon Street Bridge, the Mugler Bridge over to Fort Monroe. And then it's been a while since we've talked. I think Kickotan Road it's not new anymore, but maybe since we last talked, there are some bike lanes there as well from essentially Settlers Landing to LaSalle Avenue.
I thought that was helpful because I rode my bike a few times, and when Kickotan was a 4-lane road, you would think being in the right hand would be safe, but people expected to drive down both of them. And now that there's fewer lanes and a turn lane, that lane is a little wider.
Yes,
and it feels much more comfortable.
It had 4 lanes before, very narrow lanes, so slightly wider for the driver and room for cyclists as well. And then it's worth noting, too, if you want to ride somewhere but you don't want to ride on the street, you are allowed to ride on the sidewalk. Every city has a little bit different laws on that. You are allowed to ride on the sidewalk in almost all of Hampton. And, like, Phoebus
if there's a dedicated bike lane, you're supposed to be in it. Yeah. But if it's not marked dedicated, you are allowed to ride on the sidewalks. That's great.
And I'd say the one place where code says you should not be on the sidewalk is like the core of downtown and the core of Phoebus, where you get those businesses that open directly on the sidewalk, because we don't want a cyclist and someone coming out of a restaurant to have a crash.
And for the most part, there's not a lot of traffic there anyway, so it's very easy to be on the streets.
Yeah.
Well, are there anything coming up that we should know about?
Infrastructure-wise, we have some projects in the pipeline, but they're still several months out, and we're always applying for more funding. But Tour de Fort is coming up, so keep your eye out for more information on that. It will be based from the Ouzelfinch Beers and Blending location on Fort Monroe, and then the rides will go out.
Well, you mentioned funding, and I think it's worth talking about who is paying for these. You all have done a tremendous job of getting state grants.
So these
federal?
Yeah, they're funded the way that almost all big road projects in the city are, and it depends on the source, but some of them are a 50-50 match, and some of them are 80% state or federal, I think typically federal. I need an engineer right now, and 20% local. So almost sometimes a restriping project is just as we repave a road, we'll get new.
Right.
Get your lane striped down, but anything big is coming with some kind of match. It's not all Hampton
And I
tax
think
dollars.
it's helpful for city taxpayers to know that those typically are dollars that are specifically for
Yes.
biking and pedestrians.
Yes.
You couldn't repave a road with that money. You have to use it for that. And I think that makes this, such a more welcoming community if we can have fewer cars and more bicycles and,
Yes.
and walking.
And we always get requests to be able to walk and bike more places, especially people that live near the waterfront and like that lifestyle of biking around.
Yeah, and if Phoebus and downtown are connected, but those some busy roads to get across, I think that's a great place too.
That's a challenging connection, and unfortunately, projects with bridges are going to be a little bit are going to be a little bit farther out.
But it's still nice to see. I think I've seen so many more people walking in Phoebus and in downtown lately. It's been nice.
The weather's cooling off a little bit.
That's right. Okay, well, Allison, is there anything you want to add that I forgot to ask you?
No, just find us on Bike Walk Hampton on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for watching. As the weather gets out of the 90s every day, it'd be a great time to think about biking to work or biking for recreation or walking, because those are all great things you can do. And you experience the city in a different way when you're not in a car. Thanks for watching.